Okay, can you see the screen actually?
Yes, sir, we can.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, so let's start. So Independent University Bangladesh. Course name is Compiler Construction. Course ID is CSC 313 interlinked with CSC 411. 3 credits course. Please, somebody did not mute the mic. Please mute it. So course instruction, you people know my name. My name is Bijay Rahman Arif. Email ID is bijayarif@gmail.com. And I have also given my IUB email ID. So you can use any one of this. So if you like to use my previous one, that would be fine because I'm always available both of these email IDs. So email ID is my preferred way to contact. I have also given my cell number. If any emergency arises, you can also contact with me in phone. Help time actually like take it actually tentative time. So actually like ST 1 to 3 p.m. and 1 to 5 p.m. or any other time by appointment. Before that, you will email me. Okay. So objective. Compiler construction is considered one of the most fundamental theories in theoretical computer science. Though it is very difficult topic, its concepts are very useful almost all branches in computer science. In this course, we are going to learn different concepts and practice of compiler constructions. So let's go to topics. Lecture 1 and 2, we are going to introduce various phases of compiler. We are going to introduce lexical analyzer and grammar. Then lecture 3 and 4, we will start the grammar, context-free grammar. We are talking about ambiguous grammar, what it is, and how to make them unambiguous. Then we are going to eliminate the left recursion and left recursion of a grammar. We are going to see it is a special aspect of context-free grammar, and it is very important to eliminate left recursion. Then we are going to talk about left factoring of grammar. That is also another important aspect of context-free grammar. Then lecture 5, 6, 7, we're going to introduce. So from here, we'll introduce the compiler, the real part of compiler. So we'll start the parser part. So at the very beginning, we are going to talk about LL1 parser. Example of how can we find fast and follow. Fast and follow is a concept which is actually used in top-down parser, and LL1 parser is the top-down parser. So this concept we need to know. Then we're going to constructing LL1 parsing table. After that one, we are done with actually LL1 parser. Then we go to another top-down parser that is actually called recursive descent parser. Then after finishing recursive descent parser, we'll go to bottom-up parsers. The first bottom-up parser is operator grammar, operator precedence parser. And before learning operator precedence parser, we need to know something about operator grammar. Then we'll continue with actually bottom-up parser. Then we'll eventually start LR0 parsing. Before starting LR0 parsing, we need to know what is LR0 items. Then we'll construct LR0 table. After that one, we'll sit for midterm exam. Then actually, do you have any question up to this? Do you have any question?
Sir, I have a question regarding the exams.
Okay, so we're going to talk about that later. But if you have any question regarding the topics before midterm.
No, sir.
Okay, sir. So after midterm, we'll continue with bottom-up parser. We are going to study more on LR0 parsing. Then we'll start another example, which is SLR1 parsing. Then we are going to construct SLR parsing table. Then we are going to study CLR1 parsing. Then we'll introduce different kind of conflicts. Conflicts are actually problem in parsers. Some grammars cannot be parsed because of the conflicts. So we are going to deal with details in parsing and conflicts. After that one, all the parsers are done. Then we are going to go semantic analysis. So we are going to study syntax directed translation, an example of SDT, syntax directed translation. So this is actually another part of throughout the compilation step, which is called semantic analysis. Then we are going to check runtime abandonment and type checking, those kind of examples. Finally, we are going to study intermediate code generation. That is actually very last steps of the compilation. And we are going to study like 3 address code, translation of expression, array reference, register allocations. Then we'll sit for final exam. So do you have any questions? You can ask me. regarding the topic after the midterm? No question?
No, sir.
Okay. So let's talk about marks distribution. Assignment is 10% as usual, one before mid, another before final. This semester, I might give you some sort of homeworks. So each week there might have like 3-4 questions, at best 5 questions. Those are homeworks. Those are not marked, but actually if you don't solve those actually homeworks, it would become very difficult for you to actually understand the further topics. Even if you don't solve the homeworks, then what happens, whatever you learn in the classes, you would not be quite sure whether I got it or not. So it is very, very important to actually solve the homeworks. And moreover, I'm going to provide the homework solution. But please don't see the solution first and then solve the homeworks, because then you cannot learn anything. It is better to solve by yourself than check against the solution. Those are not marks, but actually those are very important. Otherwise, you people are not very clear about whether I have learned that topic or not. Then let's come to quiz. That is actually 20%. One before mid, another before final. Project, okay, it is very, very important. This project part is very, very important. It is 10%. Initially, I have given project as 10%, but it might happen, project might become 20%. Project might become 25%, because this marks distribution is still tentative. So please take project very, very carefully. After that one, mid is actually 30% and final is 30%. Do you have any question? You can ask me. Please, regarding exam or any other things.
Sir, project কি আমরা যে কোনো ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজে করতে পারবো নাকি শুধু C++ or C?
Actually, in compiler construction, we are going to learn two special languages. One is called Lex or lexical analyzer. Another one is called IAC or IAC, yet another compiler. Those two are special type of languages. Those are called code generation language. We're going to learn those two languages. It is better to solve your project using Lex and IAC, because all the projects so far I have given in compiler construction, that is actually based on Lex and IAC. But I'm not going to give you any kind of actually over it. If you people are comfortable using C, C++ and Java or Python, that would be fine. But please trust me, if you don't use Lex and IAC, your life would become hell. It would become very, very, very difficult. Because in this project, you have to actually implement some sort of lexical analyzer and actually some sort of syntax analyzer. So those things are already built inside Lex and IAC. Now, if you don't use Lex and IAC, if you use like very standard languages like C and C++, then what happened? Actually, you have to start from the scratch. You have to create your own lexical analyzer. You have to create your own syntax analyzer, and those are hell. Those are very, very difficult. So I would recommend to use actually Lex and IAC. Do you have any more questions?
No, sir, thank you.
Sir, do we need the Linux operating system for Lex and IAC?
Okay. So yeah, so it is a good question. Lex and IAC actually developed at the very beginning for the Unix operating system. At the very beginning, the history, if you go through the history of the Lex and IAC, those are developed on the basis of Unix operating system. And then actually when the GNU project of the Linux started, they also incorporate Lex and IAC in their operating system. But right now, actually there are lot of environments for Windows as well. Just consider this way. You can use C++ or C, this language in actually Windows. You can also use C++ also in Linux. You can use C++ as any operating system. So Lex and Yak is a language. It is true. It is actually first created for Unix environment, but right now there are a lot of actually tools for using Lex and Yak in Windows as well. So it does not matter. Okay, is that question clear? Answer clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any more question? How about the exam procedure? Do you have any question about exam procedure?
Yes, sir. How do you plan to take on the quizzes? Are we going to have
Yes,
interviews?
that is the $1 million question. We don't know yet. We don't know yet how we are going to conduct the actually quizzes, midterm and final. We are still waiting. As the time approaches to quiz, midterm and final, things are getting more and more clearer, more and more clear. Right now, we don't know. But if things going on this way, so there is no other alternatives than actually taking the quiz, midterm and final online. So that time, I don't have very clear idea how can we conduct the exam, whether the university is going to provide any platform or not. Most probably they are not going to do anything. Then I will try my best to create my own platform using some sort of tools or writing some sort of scripts. I'll try. But if it is not possible, then don't worry. We're going to find out some alternatives, and that's how we're going to conduct the exams online. Do you have any more questions, actually?
Sir, are you going to give the resources on Google Classroom or Piazza?
Which one you prefer, actually?
I would prefer Piazza.
Piazza.
Piazza?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so let's talk about the resources.
I think Classroom.
Why don't you post the resources in both places? Why are we going to create confusion? It should be available on actually Piazza. It should be also available on Google Classroom. The actually images and the hand notes and other stuffs, the course outline and everything. But
That would be nice.
that would be nice. And another thing is I most probably create a YouTube channel, and I'm going to actually share the YouTube channel with you, and the recorded session I'm going to post on YouTube as well. So that you people can see anywhere those lectures. Okay. So it would be better, right? Because those big
Yes, sir,
files,
definitely.
Yes, sir.
files,
Yes, sir.
those big video files we cannot share in Google Classroom or actually Piazza. Piazza has a limit of uploading the files, because right now if we conduct the lectures for 1.5 hours, it would be more like at least 10 megabyte. 10 megabyte is a huge file, and they would not allow to post the videos on the actually Piazza or Google Classroom. I believe so. Okay, is that clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's talk about grading. According to IOB policy and class dynamics, so you know my grading, maximum of you might not have any D. So it is also tentative. We did not decide yet how we are going to grading. As we are approaching to the end of the semester, we are going to fix those issues. And of course, I'm going to post the criteria of the grading as well. Okay, now let's talk about the recommended books. It is the very famous books. If you go to anywhere, from MIT to Harvard, from Oxford to Cambridge, if you go from NAS to actually NUT, anywhere they will recommend this book. It is very famous book. It is called Compiler, Principal Techniques and Tools by Aho, Alfred B. Aho, Ravi Shetty, and Jeffrey D. Ullman. All three are very famous computer scientists. This series is called actually the Dragon series. Right now they have the Purple Dragon because they have incorporated a female writer, female computer scientist. That's it. They are calling it right now Purple Dragon. So there are like most probably 3-4 edition of this book, but I have used actually the second edition. That is the most famous. That is called the Red Dragon. Do you know why it is called Red Dragon? Do you have any idea? Do you have any idea why it is called Red Dragon?
No, sir.
So
Right.
actually in the front cover of the book, there is a big picture of Red Dragon. They are trying to tempting the big dragon. A knight is attempting to incorporate the big dragon in the computer. That's why it is called the Red Dragon book. And the dragon color is red. Actually, it is a metaphor. The dragon is actually the language. they are trying to incorporate this language into the computer, and it is a very difficult task. That's why they called it actually the Dragon series book. And the second edition has a red dragon color. That's why it is called Red Dragon book. Okay. Okay, so second book is actually, but there are a lot of other books as well. I can name actually 5-6 good other books, but stick to this book. It is very good book actually. And it is the most standard book. Everybody follows this book. But there are a lot of other good books as well, like Holop's C implementation of compilers, Apple's actually Java implementation of compiler. But it is not necessary to read all those books. I don't think so. Because if you follow my lectures, listen my videos carefully, read my hand notes, practice as well, and read the stuffs I have actually recommend you from the books, that would be more than enough. Second book is actually for Lex and Yacc. Another name of Lex and Yacc is Flex and Bison, because Flex is the later version of Lex. It is the enhanced version of Lex. That's why it is called Flex. And Bison is the advanced version of Yacc. It is also called Bison. But actually, working procedure of Lex or Flex or Yacc and Bison are almost same. There is no big difference, at least to your level, or those are same. So it does not matter whether you use Lex or Flex, or if you use Yacc or Bison. But that book is also good. O'Reilly's books are very good. They are very renowned actually publishers, and it's written by Levin. Okay, do you have any question about the recommended books? Do you have any question?
No, sir.
Okay, so those books, I do have the copy of those books. I do have actually the soft copy of those books, but I'm sorry to say I cannot share those books with you because those are actually stolen books. Some people actually Xerox those books and they actually just publish it online. So it is not, so I'm also going to teach you the cheating. It is not better to actually teach you cheating, but if you search these books, as it is very famous book, you can definitely get a cheating copy on the internet. So collect these books. Okay, if you don't get second edition, collect third edition, fourth edition. There is no big difference. Okay, now let's come to the last part and the most important part of the course outline. Plagiarism is strictly prohibited. All parties will be given negative 100% for any kind of instance. Did you get any change from the last semester about this notice? Tell me. Did you get any change?
The negative
Last
100.
semester, what is written here? Last semester, it is written here, all parties will be given 0 for any kind of instance. And the last semester, I was very lenient. Actually, I did not penalize so much. But this semester, please trust me, as it is an online system, if I find any kind of cheating instance, you would get minus 100%. That means if the assignment is 10, if you cheat, you will get minus 10. Okay? Thank you very much. Do you have any question? Do you have any question, please?
No, sir.
No, sir. No, sir.
So please be careful about cheating. Don't cheat. Okay? So that is the end of actually the course outline. If you have any question, you can ask me. No, sir? So let's start class. Okay, so let's go to setting, go to video, and all right, guys. So tell me, what is compiler? Do you have any idea about compiler? What is compiler? Do you know? Do you have any idea about compiler? What is the dictionary meaning of compiler?
Sir, it's something that compiles the code, runs the code.
The answer is not clear to me. Clear to me, actually.
Sir, one type of converter.
Yes,
Translates
it
the
is kind
code.
of true. Actually, uh, change from one form to another. The dictionary meaning of compiler is changing from one form to another. Okay. Now, in computer science, what is compiler? Can you tell me? In computer science, what is compiler? You have already used lot of aspects of compiler already. Can you give me an example?
So it can translate from high level language to machine language, something like that.
Wonderful. Okay, so actually, let's assume this is my box, which is nothing but compiler. It transfer high level language to machine code. He says machine code. It can also actually transfer high level language to actually assembly code. Assembly code is also very low stuff. Is there any other example of compiler? It only actually transfer high level language to machine code or assembly code, or is there any other example of compiler? Can you give me an example? Is there anything? Did you ever see any compiler which transfer from one language to another language? Did you see this kind of things? From C, C++ code to Python, or Python code to C, C++?
So I heard about a research paper that can translate from C++ to Java, Python, and
Actually,
like
those are actually available in the market. Trust me, those are available. Those are actually language translator. Those are also function of the compiler. So compiler can also transfer one language So actually, it is pretty simple. That compiler actually transfer one language to other type of language. One language to other type of language. It is changing the form. Changing the form. So that is actually the task of compiler. Yes, I don't understand. What
ক্যামেরাটা একটু জুম করলে স্যার আপনার মানে কোনো কিছু বোঝা যাচ্ছে না স্যার আপনার রাইটিংস একটু জুম করলে ভালো হয় স্যার I can see your paper but not your writings.
You don't get me writing?
স্যারের উইন্ডোটা পিন করো, ইয়েতে ডেস্কটপে পিন করো, তাহলে হয়ে যাবে।
হ্যাঁ, yes. All other people can see me, right?
Yes, sir, we can.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, clear.
It should be clear, right? Is it clear to you guys? Tell me.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
You have to screen out on your actually laptop or desktop. Okay, guys? Clear?
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay, now tell me. Now let's go to historical issues. Why we need to actually change the form of the language? Why do we need this thing? Why? Is it necessary to change the form of the language? Is it necessary? So actually, compiler changes from high-level language to low-level stuff, like machine code and assembly code. It changes from one language to other language. Why do we need to change the form of the language? That means, why do we need compiler?
To make it human readable?
একজন করে একজন একজন করে একজন একজন করে বলেন, why do we need compiler? So actually, why don't we write the code in this language? What's wrong with this? এই ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজে আমার লিখলে সমস্যাটা কি? আমি তো I can directly use this language. Why I'm going to use this one, then convert using compiler, then I'm going to run this code. Why I need this thing? Why I need this compiler actually?
Because that would be pretty tiresome. To write something in machine code, that would be pretty tiresome.
Tiresome, okay. Why it is tiresome?
Because machine code would be like huge. It would be really tiresome to read and write and to in some way modify the whole code rather than using the high-level
Okay,
language to modify it.
almost correct. So actually, the computer, if you go to the history of the computer history traces back to 1940s. The modern computer history traces back to 1940s. In 1940s, do you have any idea what is computer? In 1940s, computer is something like this. It is like a box. And it has a lot of other modules. Let's assume I have 3 modules. Then they have some hole. Here also have some hole. Then whenever they need to accomplish some task using this computer, 1940s computer, they make some kind of joining with wire, physical wiring. Okay. For example, after this kind of joining, it might calculate x square. Okay. So that time, that was actually the computer. So what happened? Those are actually very laborsome. You have to physically join the wires and other stuffs. Secondly, it is very laborsome. Secondly, if you want to change the functionality, for example, right now you are doing x square, you have this functionality. If you want to do x cube, then what happened? You have to change the wiring. The wiring should be changed. Completely new type of wiring you need to create. So it becomes very inefficient. And thirdly, prone to failure. Okay. So 1940s computers are like this, physically wired. In 1950s, people invented some sort of language. So right now, this is my machine. On top of this, they have created a machine which is nothing but some sort of machine code. And what is machine code? This wiring, they represented by 0 and 1. Whenever some hole is connected, they called it 1. Whenever some hole is not connected, they call it 0. So instead of physical wiring, they write some sort of string like 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1. And this module actually mimic this wiring. That's how the first language has been started. But again, as one person already told me, sir, 0, 1, 1, it is actually also very tedious task and lot of error might happen. It might happen you want to convey the message, I love you, because of one error in 0 and 1, the completely different message would convey. It likes I hate you. So it is a big problem. So that's why on top of this machine code, they create another tier. And that's how the assembly code started. So it is actually the 1950s task. It is the 1940s task. And this is actually the 1955. Eventually, as the computer science developed, this goes high, high, and high. And right now, we are getting the high-level languages. Okay. So that is actually the total workflow of compiler, the short workflow of the compiler. That's how compiler comes. So each steps. Now, if you try to convert from high-level language to assembly code, you need a compiler. From assembly code to machine code, you need a compiler. So for this one, you need a compiler. For this one, you need another compiler. For this one, you need another compiler. So there are multi-stages of compilers are working. But in this course, actually, we are trying to working with only this state, from high-level language to assembly code. Actually, not the whole procedure of this, some important part of this. So that's the actually brief history of compiler. Okay? Do you have any question? You can ask me. Do you have any question? You can ask me this. Any question? No, sir?
No, sir. No, sir.
Please don't sleep. Ask me question.
Sir, regarding the assembly code, according to the different vendors, the assembly code is different from each other.
Yeah. Okay. So wonderful question. I understand. Wonderful question. So these machines, 1940s, these machines are very limited. Mute, please mute. 1940s, these machines are very limited. Right now, there are a lot of vendors creating this kind of machines. For example, Intel creating their own machine, Motorola creating their own machine, then actually IBM creating their own machine. So each of these machines have their own architecture. And this architecture has its own assembly code. So up to this part, this part is actually vendor dependent. Up to this part, this is actually vendor dependent. Now, for example, if you want to write a C compiler for Intel machine, you have to create up to this part, from high level part to up to assembly part. Then the vendor already given you the second part, the assembly code up to the machine code part. And also this part is called front end. This part is also called front end. And this part is also called back end. Back end of compiler. Okay? Is that clear to you, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so up to this part, assembly code up to the machine communication, this is called the backend. From HLL to assembly code, this part is called front end. So front end part is written by the developers, C++ C developers, and backend is written by the Intel Motorola vendors. Okay, guys. So that is why we need actually the compiler. Do you have any more questions? This. No, sir. Okay. So let's move to second topic. Yeah. Okay. Tell me one thing. Whenever you actually run any C++ code, what is running actually? Do you have any idea? Whenever you are running any C++ code, what is running actually? Is the source code actually running in the machine?
So not directly, sir.
So what is actually running?
I think
No.
the parsers and the
No.
syntax.
So whenever you run C++ code or C code, what is actually running?
The compiler.
No, of course not. Why compiler would be running? Compiler, so whenever you open an IDE or if you take a GCC, so whenever you give the source code, after compilation, it creates a special file. That file is running by the machine, not actually the source code. What is that file? Tell me.
exe file.
Wonderful. In Windows operating system, it is exe file. So your C or C++ source, C or C++ source, it is going through a compilation. Then it is going to create a .exe file in Windows and .a .out in Linux. So actually it is wrong that our source code is running. What is running? Our exe file in Windows is running, or a.out is running in the Linux. So these are the low level stuffs. They are not completely actually assembly code or machine code. They are very familiar for operating system, and those are actually running by the operating system. But your C++ source code actually transferred to those files through compilation steps. Okay, so please remember, it is a very wrong concept that actually our source code is running. Our source code is not running. What is running? Running actually our .exe file or .a.out file. Okay. Now, what are the steps? What are the steps of here? What is the steps of here? What is happening here? So at the very beginning, we give pure HLL, pure high level language. Then it is passed through preprocessor. Preprocessor converts this pure HLL to, sorry, we pass HLL, high level language, or our source code. Source to low level translation. So now what is pure HLL? So it is the question. What is pure HLL? What is the first line you are writing in C++ code? Tell me. What is the first line you are writing in C++?
Printf hello world.
Okay, so how about if you want to add something, what is the first line you are writing?
Include something.
So we add the libraries.
Wonderful. So we write something like this. Hash include. What actually this line means?
It calls the libraries.
So the compiler writer already provides us some sort of files called IOStream. And as we are using some sort of input output, that's why you have to incorporate this hash include. So that compiler understand we are using the functionality of IOStream. But actually, what is IOStream? IOStream is actually a file. It has lot of details. Lot of details. Okay. You do not incorporate the whole details in your source code, but you just give a pointer to iostream. But whenever you are creating this exe file, the computer needs to know everything about iostream. So this whole line in preprocessor step is actually replaced by this file. Okay, it's a big file, big gigantic file. It is actually replaced by this preprocessor macro. Then what happened? Initially my source code is something like this, moderate size. Then what happened? The size has getting big. Lot of big files is incorporated on top of the files. So that is the task of the preprocessor. Is it clear to you? Is it clear to you? Tell me.
Yes, sir.
Can you give me another example? Can you give me another example of this kind of things? Where preprocessing is happening.
So we use define.
Oh, wonderful, fantastic. So preprocessor macro. So whenever we use define pi equal to 3.14, so whenever inside the code it gets this keyword pi, actually it is replaced by 3.14. That is also another task of preprocessor macro. All right. So all the hash preprocessors and preprocessor macros actually replaced by the actual value or actual file. Okay. So that is the task of the preprocessor macro. After that one, we get pure HLL. This pure HLL then transferred to where? Transferred to compiler. Then what is the output of compiler? Tell me, what is the output of compiler? What is the output of compiler? Assembly code. Assembly code না মেশিন কোড না, মেশিন কোডটা একটু বেশি হয়ে যায়, মেশিন কোডের আগে আরো কয়েকটা স্টেপ আছে। অ্যাসেম্বলি কোড, ওকে। দেন it is transferred to loader. Can you tell me what is the function of loader? Is there anybody who knows the function of loader? লোডারের কাজ কি কেউ কি জানেন? Do you ever gone through the assembly code? What is inside the assembly code?
So I think fixing the registers, like মানে কতটুকু ডেটা যাবে, কোন কোন রেজিস্টারে যাবে।
So in the assembly code, fantastic. So in the assembly code, actually there are a lot of mnemonics like add, multiplication, division, subtraction. So we understand those things. There is also another thing, some sort of addressing are there. Some sort of addressing are there. So what happened? For example, I have created a executable in my machine. In Windows, it is running fine. If I send you the executable to your machine on your Windows, can it run there or not? Tell me. Tell me, please. Is the question clear?
So can you please repeat the question?
We will need to have the same mnemonics and...
No, I transferred the whole executable. I have created an executable in Windows. I send you the executable to your Windows machine. Can it run it or not?
Yes, sir. It will run.
Yes, it can.
Yes.
Why? Your machine is completely different. Why
Sir,
it is running?
maybe not. Maybe it won't run because my register may it মানে এটা register আমি যে register
Did you ever try the,
yes sir মানে স্যার আমার register
Did you ever try that
থাকতে
one?
পারে।
Did you ever, না occupy না, That is actually managed by the operating system. Don't worry. Operating system is going to create a queue and he is going to fix that issue. Don't worry about that one. If it is not available right now, he will put your executable in the queue. After eventually it is going to be unoccupied and then it is going to let you run your executables. But that is not the question, whether resources are available or not. But my question is, I have created an executable in my machine, my Windows. I do not send the source code to you. I send the executable to you. In your Windows machine, is that running or not? If both are 32 bits or 64 bits. Do you ever try that on or not?
It should run.
So yes, sir, it will run, sir.
Sir,
It
হওয়ার
will
কথা
run,
না।
but হওয়ার কথা না, but it will run. My question is the people who are asking, who are telling that it would run, why it would run? The machines are completely different. My memory address is completely different. Then why it is running there? Tell me. The people who says it will run. Okay, so let me give you the answer. Assembly code can be of two types. One is called absolute assembly. Another one is called relocatable assembly. Okay, so what is absolute assembly? Absolute assembly is you're fixed that you have to run this code. You have to run this code in this address, FF249. So in any instance, if your address is occupied by somebody, this code would not run because that address is already occupied. But modern executables, they use this relocatable assembly. So what is relocatable assembly? Instead of providing the absolute address, it is giving some sort of relative address. Okay. So what is relative address? Relative address is something like this. So it is something like this. If you add something in here, 0x4, then please put my assembly code from 10 place after, plus 10, which is also called offset. So in relocatable assembly, it is not a problem. As all the addresses are actually relative, you can start from anywhere. You can start from anywhere, then go 10 step, go 5 step, go 8 step. So that's why relocatable assembly can run in any same architecture. Is it clear to you? Is it clear to you? If it is not clear to you, ask me question.
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Is it clear to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. It's clear.
Absolute assembly means you have to be very fixed about the addresses. In the RAM, those addresses need to be vacant if you want to run that code. But relocatable assembly is not like that. Relocatable assembly is start from anywhere. After starting, some step should be always available. So if you run from 0x4, after 10 step, it is available up to 50, it would be fine. If you start from 0x9, after 10 step, up to 50, if it is available, it is also fine. Okay, guys? So that is the task of loader. Loader, load this relocatable assembly to the machine. Then what we get? What we get actually? What we get? We get machine code.
Machine.
Then finally, there is another part which is called linker. What is the task of linker? What is the task of linker? Tell me. Your files might be separated. There might have one file here, another file here, another file here, but all together they are constituted the one file. So linker is going to add all those files and finally it is going to create the target language. And we are done with this. All right, guys. So that is the steps. Do you have any question? Do you have any question, please? Tell me, please.
No, sir, no questions.
So we start from high level language, preprocessor, replace this kind of preprocessor macros with the actual definition. Then we get pure HLL. Then pure HLL is passed to compiler. Compiler creates assembly code, relocatable. Relocatable assembly code by loader generates machine code. Finally, I might have more than one files. Those are added together by the linker. Finally, I get the target language. Done. Okay. In this course, we are all only dealing with this compiler part. We are not going to dealing with other parts. Okay. This is our task, this part, compiler. So what are the steps of compiler? So let's elaborate this step, this one. Elaborate this step. So what is the first step of compiler? What is the first step of compiler? Do you have any idea?
Pure high-level language.
Yes. Pure HLL. Then the first step of compiler is called, we are actually breaking this one. We are breaking this one. We are breaking this one. The first step of compiler is called lexical analyzer. Lexical analyzer or tokenizer. Then it is going to generate stream of
syntax, a stream of tokens. It's going to generate a stream of tokens.
Stream of tokens, right? Then this one is going to pass to
syntax analyzer.
Syntax analyzer or parser. What it is going to generate? Parse tree. Then this one is going to pass to semantic analyzer. It is going to generate abstracts, abstract parse tree. This one is going to pass to ICG.
ICG.
Or intermediate code generator.
Code generation.
ICG. ICG is going to generate
code optimizer.
Some sort of intermediate code. One famous is called 3-address code. Then it is going to pass to optimizer. It is going to generate optimized code. And finally, we are going to pass to code generator. Assembler, sorry. What it is going to generate? Finally, the last part of this assembly code. Okay, so this is the step of the compiler. Do you have any question? You can ask me. If you have any question, you can ask me. Please.
স্যার একটু আবার একটা এক্সপ্লেন করবেন পুরোটা
আবার বলছি প্রথম থেকে। So এটাতে আসেন, এটাতে আমাদের এই কম্পাইলারটাকে we are breaking down the compiler, okay? The steps of the compiler. What is the input of the compiler steps? Pure HLL, right? What is the output of the compiler? Assembly code. So this whole thing is nothing but the compiler. We break down this. So started with pure HLL, it is passing to lexical analyzer, the first step over here, or tokenizer. The output of this is nothing but stream of tokens. Then stream of token is passed to syntax analyzer or parser. The output is nothing but parse tree. That is passing to semantic analyzer. The output of this is nothing but abstract parse tree. That is passing to ICG. ICG is nothing but intermediate code generation. That is going to generate one type of intermediate code like 3-address code. That is passed to optimizer. Optimizer is going to generate optimized code. And finally, it is passing to assembler. Assembly generate the final thing, the assembly code. And we are done with compilation step. Okay, guys? Is it clear? It is the whole breakdown of this step. So how many steps are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps. Okay? All right, guys. Do you have any question? Do you have any question? Acha. For each step, there is a helping hand, which is called nothing but symbol tree. It is a helping hand. It is interacting with all the steps. It is a special type of data structure which is interacting with all the steps. It is a helping hand. And it has also another module, error handler. It is also interacting with all the steps. Okay, guys? Do you have any question? Should we stop here today?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're going to stop here today. But do you have any question overall?
No, sir.
No, sir. You understand today's lecture?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So how can we improve more? Tell me. How can we improve this lecture more?
স্যার এটা আপলোড দিলে ভালো হয় স্যার লেকচারটা ইউটিউবে
One by one, please. How can we improve the lecture quality more?
Sir, it is understanding enough, sir.
Is understanding enough to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
How about the presentation? Is it
Yes, sir.
clear?
Yes, sir.
So your setup is really good.
My setup is really good. Okay. Thank you. So how can we improve more? Is it possible to improve more?
Sir, probably we'll find what we need to improve if we do like few more classes, sir. So far it's good, sir.
So far is good. How about the speed? Is the speed is good?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, I felt the speed was good, sir.
Should we be slower or faster?
I think
Sir,
it's all
It's more balanced.
One by one, please. One by one, please.
I think it's
Give other-
optimum, sir.
It is optimum. Fantastic. How about the understanding of today's class?
10 out of 10, sir.
10 out of 10. Okay. It is now. It is getting too much. Okay. Thank you very much. See you next class. Till then, Goodbye. Keep safe. Okay.
Bye.
ওয়ালাইকুম আসসালাম।
লেকচারটা আপলোড করে দিন।
হ্যাঁ অবশ্যই আপলোড করে দেবো। ওকে।